Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our discussion on positive thinking. We are discussing the acronym IDEA to convey the fundamental spiritual principles. We discussed I, identity, in our previous talk. In this talk, we'll discuss about D, divinity, which is the second among the four, the remaining two being eternity and activity. So, D, divinity. Now, one of the greatest scientific mysteries is why is the universe intelligible at all? Many people think that in an age of science, it is unscientific to believe in God. However, such a notion comes from a uninformed understanding of science. Certainly, science has done remarkable things. It has got phenomenal abilities to manipulate nature, to do things which were not possible to do in the recent past. And now, the point is, how does science operate? Science studies the theory, technology is the application of that theory. So, technology cannot work without science, and science cannot work without some fundamental ordering principles in nature. So, as long as there are these ordering principles, till that time, science will be able to work. So, for example, if we consider, say, E is equal to mc square, or F is equal to g m1 m2 upon r square, these are Einstein's equation or Newton's postulation of gravity, of the force between objects. Now, why does matter obey laws? This is a question which eludes scientific answers. So, as Indian mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujan, he said that an equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God. An equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God. So, why should an equation have to be representing a thought of God? The question comes, why does that equation exist in nature? So, maths and mathematical equations are basically some conception of our mind. So, now why should the reality out there in the external physical world, why should the behavior of objects in that external reality correlate with some conceptions in our mind? So, the correlation between mathematical conceptualization of the mind and the physical behavior of nature, this correlation is extraordinary. Now, if we just think from a reductionistic point of view, reductionistic means we don't acknowledge any higher metaphysical realities. If we assume the physical reality to be the only reality, then this question boggles the mind. Scientists try to relegate the existence of laws to nature, to chance ultimately. But that further begs the question, why should there be laws being produced by chance? So again, we say, if we look at the question, well, let's put it another way. Scientists study nature, and when they find that nature doesn't make sense, then they try to go deeper to see if there is some deeper sense. So all of science is essentially a search for order and patterns and meanings. So, for example, now we consider Newton's brilliance, that when he saw a fruit falling, so at that time he inquired, why did this fruit fall? And that question, why did the fruit fall, led to the development of the principles of gravity. Certainly, that Newton could infer from such a commonplace observation and arrive at a significant inference, that is his brilliance. At the same time, the very question, why did this apple fall, assumes that there is some order underlying nature. That means Newton is assuming that things don't happen in a arbitrary, disorderly, chaotic pattern, chaotic manner, but they happen for a reason. So now, why is there causality at all in nature? And as science has studied further, it has discovered not just causality, but causality which is governed by laws of mathematical precision. So, the more science studies, the more science discovers order in the universe. And this order points to a transcendental order maintainer. There is a transcendental basis for that order. Another example to illustrate this point, that if we consider, if someone gives us, if a person A gets some paper, and that paper contains some unrecognizable squiggles, some patterns of ink that just don't make any sense, and then the person starts searching. Okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? And maybe this is written in some language that I don't know, and that person searches for this language, that language, that language, and then eventually comes, oh, this is written in this language. And when he goes to that language and studies, then he understands, oh, this is what it means, this is the message. Now the effort in searching to see what is the language in which that message is written is laudable, and it requires intelligence. But again, there is a presumption there that there is an order because of which the person went about the trouble of searching for the meaning. So similarly, when science sees order, sees some patterns in nature, sees the behavior of natural phenomena, then sees some patterns in them and tries to discern some order, and then discern some principle, which can be mathematically postulated to explain that principle, then all this indicates that there is an underlying order. And just as we understand, if a message is written in secret language, then the person who has written that message is also intelligent. So like that, the very laws of physics, though they explain many things, they require an explanation. So the explainability of the universe requires an explanation, and that explanation is God. So taking the same pattern of seeking order within the realm of nature, further taking this pattern further, now we can, when we turn towards the Bhagavad Gita explains to us, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagadviparivartate. In 9.10, Krishna says that material nature works under his supervision, and under the supervision of material nature, by its order, it moves about and creates, it moves about and makes things happen over here. So God is the overseer, God is the source of the transit of the order. And when we understand God's controllership, divinity, then we understand that we are actually not alone in the vastness of space. We are not alone in this world, in this universe. God is in control. Now, if a patient is sick and the sickness is getting worse and worse and worse, the patient will be miserable. But if there's a doctor treating, then even from the patient's perspective, things are going wrong, but still from the doctor's perspective, the patient knows that, okay, things are working. So, the understanding that God is in control, that helps us to maintain faith even when things are going wrong. And we can be confident, we can have confidence to march ahead in life, knowing that we are not alone. And especially when we face adversities, we can have the courage to march on, knowing that even if things are going wrong, things will eventually work out right. So, as it is said in the Bible, if God be for us, who can be against us? So similarly, when we understand that God very much exists and He is very much present, the Bhagavad Gita explains that He is present in our own hearts. Sarvasya chaham hridisannivishto. He is present in our hearts and He guides us from that place. So when we understand this principle of God's presence, God's benevolence, and God's maintenance of order, then we can get the courage and the confidence to think optimistically and live positively. Thank you. In our next talk, we'll discuss about the principle of eternity. Hare Krishna.